Hi, Rozana. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So this is fun because we've tried to go live on literally every platform possible, but it wasn't happening. So we were like, I'm not gonna let this makeup that I did go to waste. So I'm like, let's just do it on Zoom at least. How are
Me
you?
too.
How was your day?
I'm doing good. I was like, oh my God, I was really looking forward to wearing like a dark lipstick. So I'm
I
like,
know your
I don't
lipsticks
want
are
that
my
to win.
favorite.
I'm doing good. It's been a good day. It's been chill. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I was working, like I've changed my whole work schedule. So I'm working usually in the mornings and then at nights. I'm not usually working this time, but I was like, this time is usually good for like, shadow work sessions and deep sessions that we do because it gets me in the zone.
Yeah,
So yeah, I had that and I was free since morning, since afternoon. So I'm kind of good.
that's amazing. Yeah, I also have been like shifting things a little bit. So I'm mostly just like on Voxer, Telegram, and then I have
Mm.
like some one-on-ones in January. So I'm excited for that.
Oh my God. That's the vibe. Relax, riches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no more hustling.
Absolutely. One second.
Sure, it's okay.
One second. Okay, I'm back.
So, we wanted to talk about Islamic manifestation. I know you and I are both into the law of assumption more than
Yeah.
like law of attraction, even though, tomato, tomato, same concepts.
Yep.
But it's more so like what is the Islamic perspective of manifestation? Because there's a lot of like questioning about like, is it shirk? Is it haram? All of that
Mhm.
stuff. So it's good to like dive deep into that. And because I also have some Muslim people in my audience. My
Mhm.
platform is like predominantly about manifestation. I know your platform is like about business and manifestation.
Mhm.
So it's an interesting collab that we're doing here because my clients
I
mostly
know.
come for love manifestation.
I know, like this whole thing, I feel this goes for everything. You can use literally anything in this world and you can use it for the wrong reasons and for the wrong intentions, and then that becomes
Mhm.
haram.
Yeah.
Right, like if your faith is no longer in your dua and it is in the fact that just because I'm doing this business strategy it's going to get me, then the business strategy becomes haram, right?
Hmm.
So it's essentially what and where your faith is going to. But if you, like I just said, if your whole foundation is weak, then you will always be in that paradigm of like, oh my God, this is haram, that is haram, and I should be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that. Like
Hmm.
we know ultimately, like how we believe, we know that we're not the creator. Like this whole perspective of you are the creator and you're the one creating everything, that's firstly BS. I
Hmm.
feel because like think about it, how much pressure are you putting on your own self to be creating every timeline and creating everything for everybody else and everyone else's version, your version? Why are you trying to complicate it?
Right.
Right, it's all created, it was done right when Allah said kun fayakun. All the possibilities, even the ideology of free will stems from this whole thing, which is like it's all available to you and then you have choice. So just like how you had a choice whether I want to pursue subjects in maths or if I want to pursue subjects in science or if I want to pursue art or if I want to take up this as a language or if I want to do that, every decision and choice that you have been making, those parallel realities are existing. So I always give this example that I was when I was in high school, I was very confused. Do I take science or do I take commerce? Do I do this? Do
Yeah.
I do that? Like I had that. So there's literally a version of me who actually went for science and she became a doctor. There's a version of me who went for maybe technology and computers. There's a version of
Mhm.
me who went for polytechnic and communication and went into politics. Right. So those possibilities always existed. It was about what was I consciously placing my focus into based on my fears and based on my desires at the time that I made that decision. Right.
Mhm.
I am like, as I said, you have to be strong in your faith and then use everything that's out there for your thing as a tool. So you take the things that are good in what you're trying to do, and then you dismiss the things that you don't agree with. We're not here telling you that, oh my God, you're God and you are the creator, and you can manifest everything and you're the one who created this and all of that. You got to use these laws and these things and these almost like mindset techniques. It's like mind hack techniques for you to get in the right headspace to make that thing possible for you. End of the day, this is the game that you have to master. So it's not really about how am I going to make this happen, or who's going to do this, and this is how I manifested this. It's basically how have you aligned your energy towards getting what you want, because the moment you were born you had free will. So the concept of free will in itself and the ability that you have to make decisions to do things means you're manifesting, right? Your current reality itself is a manifestation. So if you're telling me you don't manifest or you don't believe in manifestation, you're telling me you don't know how to live. Like that's what you're telling me. Your every live reality, look at your reality right now. Everything goes back to your dormant assumptions about money are showing up as money. Your dormant assumptions about people are showing up as people. Your dormant assumptions about success is showing up as success.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
I was actually just taking notes because I was like, oh my God, I want to talk about this and that and that. So I think the concept of manifestation is confusing to people because they say that, first of all, it's not in the Quran. And it's interesting to me because while the word manifestation itself is not in the Quran, but all of its concepts are there. Like the word self-love is not in Quran. The word riz is not in Quran. But all the stories and the concepts are surrounding that. So manifestation, we talk about, ask, believe, receive. As I broke it down before in one of my posts, which is like dua, yaqeen, and getting the getting the desire. So it's not something that's foreign from Islam, and even Islam tells us that like I am as my servant thinks of me.
Yes,
that shows like it's your relationship with God, how you perceive God. He also said, Allah said, assume good and you receive good, assume bad and you receive bad.
Yeah. And another one that I really love was wherever you go towards, I'll open the doors for that for you. So if you're going towards one particular path, I will open up paths in that way for you, right? Yeah. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, it is about the choices and the willpower that you're practicing. Yeah. So it's literally something that you're already doing. But as I said, people who don't have a strong faith already, right? People don't have a strong foundation already, then they need something to support that woo-woo thing. They need to say that they're God. They need those things like you are the creator, or you shouldn't believe in a false external God, because they don't have a concept of God for themselves. But we do have a very strong foundation, and everything I do, I will have a reflection of this and I'll be like, oh my God, this is how like Allah talks about this. Yeah. And like this is something like I think I've shared this with you as well. Some of my biggest duas were answered through manifestations through non-Muslims sometimes, right? And I was like, that was my dua in action, and it was so bizarre because I was like, how did this happen? If my, like, I feel like now my relationship is so much more better, because now when I pray, it is not like before. I remember that my faith in Allah depended on how much I needed Him in those situations. If I needed something badly, I'd be praying on time, I'd be doing tahajjud, and I'd be doing all of these things, but only so that I got something. So my dua was accepted. It was a very self-serving sort of a relationship. But now when I pray, when I'm doing something, even if I'm having powerful reflections, like the place of gratitude that I come from is totally different. And even when something happens in my life, the first thing I do is I thank Allah for it, right? It's not like I'm thanking myself that, oh my God, I created this. Of course not, right? So if you have a weak faith and weak iman in itself, then you will have these doubts, right? If that's the case, don't do all of these things. As I said, it depends on how strong your mind is. If you're someone with a weak faith and you're looking for loopholes, you will find that.
Yeah. And our faith does talk a lot about the power of positive thinking. It also talks a lot about the power of gratitude, that the more you're grateful, the more Allah gives you. You know,
Yeah.
you're not going against the faith and you're
Mhm.
not creating something. It's
Mhm.
like all of that stuff is already created, and
Mhm.
according to what you align with, that's what you receive. And that was
Mhm.
even in 13:11, where it specifically talks about like God does not change the state, your state, if like the state of your life until you change your inner state.
Yes,
That is
yes,
written in
yes.
Manifestation 101. I
Mhm.
think like the concern that people have is, but everything is written. And I did ask an Islamic mentor about this year.
Mhm. Mhm.
We were talking about it, and she said, well, we know that we hear a lot about qada and qadar,
Mhm.
and when you make dua for something, you can change destiny.
Yeah.
And the possibilities of changing destiny is even written in Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz. So
Mm.
all of
Even
that,
that is written.
even that is written, that this
Exactly.
is changeable through consistent dua.
Oh.
It's so interesting because it reminded me like a long time ago, back in my teen years, I had a friend who sent me like one of those Facebook posts, and it was talking about like it's kind of like a tug of war. Like the more you keep pulling and
Mm.
pulling and pulling, you win. And that's how like dua works.
Mm.
And it's so interesting because like the more I understand spiritual concepts, the more I
Mm.
understand our faith in a different way. And
Yeah.
it's not because we weren't taught that in the religion, it's more so because growing up, it wasn't interpreted the right way. It was rooted in fear. It was rooted in
Yes.
control.
Even
Not the
now.
faith people who were teaching it. It was
Yeah.
coming from a place of misogyny, from a place of
Yeah.
control. It wasn't coming from a place of like actually love
It's
yourself,
almost,
love Allah.
yeah, I have seen that as well. It's almost like I've had like an experience like 2 days ago around this, wherein there is so much fear, and there's so much fear of like, almost like, like you shouldn't try to understand Quran through your own self. You
Oh,
shouldn't, yeah, like you don't know what wrongful thoughts you might instill in it, or you might take things just as long as it's suitable to you,
yeah.
right? Or you might try to misinterpret it, and you should leave the understanding of the Quran to sheikhs, and you shouldn't do tadabbur on it. And I was like, why do you think it was sent to people then?
We're
Right?
encouraged to educate ourselves.
Everyone is encouraged to read it, and it's available in such detailed manner. And if it that wasn't the case, it wouldn't have been given to people as a spoken word, right? It wouldn't be like that. So I just feel like they are they have this is okay, this is me getting too much into religion, but this is how Christianity was kind of diluted, because they people reserve the rights of what was said just to the scholars, right? They had the right, and they sort of manipulated it, and they dictated that this is what this means, this is what this means, and they sort of played out that way.
Mm-hmm.
But the beauty of our religion is that you are allowed to ask questions, you're allowed to ask triggering questions and explore the meaning of this and see how is that reflecting in your life. So I had an experience wherein I was doing that, and then I was told that, oh my God, you shouldn't be so bold to try to make the tafsir on your own, right? And I wasn't even making tafsir on my own. There were a bunch of scholars that I usually reflect to, because they give
Yeah.
very good root words, and they have very powerful way of explaining things. I was doing their tafsir, and even for that, no, you shouldn't do those people. Those people are wrong, and this is bad, and you should follow only these people, should listen to only these people. So I was like, again, you're reserving it. This is coming from trying to control. So if people have their own mind, then they can't be controlled.
Yeah.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
this also stems from that.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like I do follow some scholars. There are people that I love watching, but at the same time, I think we forget to use our discernment because we put them
Yeah.
on such a pedestal. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, they're
Yes.
also human.
Yeah.
They're not gonna like on Judgment Day, they're not just gonna jump straight to heaven. There's also hisab for them.
For them, yeah.
So it's so interesting to me that we pedestalize coaches, and then we pedestalize therapists, and we kind of anybody who seems in like the top criteria. But even all these people, even scholars, their beliefs are always changing or upgrading depending on their journey and their level of understanding. And based on that, they translate that to you. So it's so interesting that, people tell you, like, don't explore, because our religion, if anything, it talks a lot about balance, not just like being super religious. It's about being, yes, devoting to, your faith, but also
living a life.
And also education is highly encouraged. Maybe it tells us iqra, So it's so interesting to me. It's almost like there's this need to control, and it's being projected through all of these people out there. Not everybody, but when people also say that you shouldn't make dua for something specific or someone specific, I'm like, who are you to speak? There are literally specific dua for wealth, specific dua for love, specific dua for health. And dua is actually encouraged, not just for like the quote unquote big desires. It's literally for the smallest things. Last week, I was going skating and I kept making like safety dua because I'm like, I don't want to fall. Me and my friend, protect us. It's like for the smallest thing, or like, I find this thing when I go to the store.
There are even stories of companions when they would need even something as little as salt. They would come, pray, and ask Allah also, like pray to rakas, ask for salt, and then they would go back. Right? But there's nothing like big or small. It's about actively, like even now when I'm doing something, like even when I'm sending my kids in school bus, I have this thing about their safety. So firstly, I make dua and I step into the awareness that yes, Allah will accept it, and I step into the awareness they are protected. I visualize like a wall of protection around them. That's me getting into state 101. That's manifestation stuff. That's identity shifting.
Exactly. And I think
having that faith after your dua, that's manifestation.
Yeah. I think people get really triggered by the word manifestation. Like, I even remember someone left a comment under my post. She was like, it's called dua, not manifestation. Careful, you're promoting bid'ah and shirk, and you're wearing the headscarf. Like, first of all, don't even try to come from my headscarf. If you try to shame me for it, like a Western person would. I mean,
it's such a shame. Exactly.
Don't even try me. Don't even try me. And then secondly, manifestation, I'm not using it the Western way. To each their own, of course. I'm not going to like judge anybody. I know that people say like the universe will deliver. Personally, I don't believe in the universe. I believe God created the universe, so I believe in God. And when I say manifestation, that's a general term that I'm using because I'm speaking to people.
It's a glorified way of saying goal setting.
And I'm speaking to people from different parts of the globe with different beliefs. Different religions. So it's so interesting. Like, the word is so triggering.
No need for justification. That's where I start. And I'm like, I don't have to explain myself to anyone. I will not be a 20, 30-year-old who'll be explaining herself like I'm a little girl, like 11-year-old girl, telling my dad why I did this. Why? Who are you? Who are you?
I think
let me go to hellfire if that's what you think.
I think when it's so triggering for somebody, like, we always say, like, if it's triggering you, it's showing up, it's shedding light on something inside of you. And I believe people who get so triggered about something that's related to religion, like when they think you're saying something wrong, it's not that, oh no, let me educate her. It's like, oh, let me, leave a rude comment or, disrespect this person. I believe a lot of times it's because people are afraid of falling down that path themselves, of shirk, of losing maybe themselves, of whatever it is. That's why it's like so activating, because even Islamically, you're supposed to give people advice respectfully and privately. Which
and so, like about like online hate and things like that. As I said, there are people at such different levels of awareness, and as the work that we do, we know so well that people are coming from such different shadows. Right now, when someone leaves a comment, or even in real life when they tell me something, I know exactly what shadow is playing out for them. So it doesn't feel like it's just their story, it's their problem. It has nothing to do with me. That's the first thing I do. And second thing, I'm like, even the people with the best of intentions in Islam, people with the best of intentions who are the biggest scholars, have been dragged through dirt. Right. So I'm not saying I am that, or I am one of those. But what I am saying is, people have a problem with everything, right? But I'm not creating for these people. I'm not serving these people. Please don't follow me. Please go burn flags in my name. But I don't give 2 cents. Like I'm not bothered by it at all. Right? I know what my relationship with Allah is. I know the work I'm doing. I know, like my clients know how deep we go and how much it strengthens our relationship, even the relationship that we have with our religion, how much religious guilt that we have shed. Like with some of my clients, they didn't want to pray because they felt like they were such bad people. Like as I said, they had this inherent belief that they're bad and they're wrong and they are so guilty. And for them to be able to like elevate from that and get to a place wherein they have that open relationship. And I recently did this with one of my clients, wherein we did this visualization wherein I was like, open yourself to love and then visualize Allah's love coming into you. She was crying. Like she was so emotional. Like that's the first time we opened her heart chakra, and that's why she was crying. So like now when I say heart chakra, it's like it's a Sanskrit word, it's a Hindu concept. But what am I doing? It's a tool. I'm using that as that tool to help you connect better. Right. So then she was crying. She was like, I've never felt this before. And she was like, my relationship, now I feel like Allah is with me all the time. You know how powerful that is?
Yeah. It's such like I said earlier, like learning the spiritual concepts or like understanding the spiritual side of things has helped me connect more with Islam.
Yes.
I remember I read a book by A. Halwa is her name. What is it called? Secrets of Divine Love. And she was talking about how, like, you know, everywhere you go, you can see Allah's 99 names around you. Like, let's say you walk around and you see like a big tree, you remember Allah's name, Al-Kabir, or you see kindness around you, Al-Karim, you know. And it's so beautiful because like the day I did that, I was like, it felt like I'm surrounded by Allah's love. And it's like, it's just me and Allah, none of you. And it's such a beautiful thing to connect with, which this also goes back to like concepts of dua and manifestation, which is like, you know, bringing the focus back within yourself and and remembering like the power of Allah and your relationship with Allah, what you expect to receive from Allah, your perception of Him, and that's what continues to unfold. And yeah, it's so interesting because like all over TikTok, if you go on Islamic TikTok, everyone is talking about different ways of getting their desires. They just don't use the word manifest.
Yeah.
I read the surah 3 times, or I read the surah and then I drank water right after it, or I did ruqya or whatever. You know, it's so interesting. Like there's all these rituals.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen that so much, and that's what like there's absolutely no trying to explain yourself at this point. There was this one thing that I recently read. I actually heard in a lecture, which was, as a Muslim, you're not allowed to have low self-worth. Think about it. Like you're created by like the most powerful being in this planet. How can you be like, oh my God, I'm not good enough, like I'm not worthy of this, I'm not worthy of that? You ruminating in that much self-hate, you ruminating in that much low self-esteem is what's against Islam. You're not supposed to be that. You have to be so confident and so proud of yourself for just being Muslim, just for having this faith, just for having all of these tools available to you. It's actually just that the more humble you are, the more you're like, oh my God, I'm like, I just, that's like knowing the amount of shadow work that I do know, I know it's a manipulation technique. So when you are like, I feel so sorry for myself, you want people to feel sorry for you. When you're like, I am just a poor person, I like, the world has been against me. You're using that as a manipulation tactic to get what you want. Instead of stepping into your awareness, believing in yourself, and striving towards getting what you want, you're manipulating your environment using people pleasing. It's actually a manipulation technique. And this is me getting so into it. But as I said, like, I have zero regard for people who think this way. And even this live, the intention for this live is not being addressed to those people, because no amount of evidence will satisfy them. This live or this content that we're sharing It's for people who are at that place but are operating with guilt, and they are like, I want to dabble into this. I want to try these techniques, but I'm afraid, it's this or it's that. It's for people from that open headspace.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I was also explaining to my clients before the concept of like self-love and in Islam, because it's so interesting. When we say self-love, sometimes people resort immediately to arrogance, and that's just like resistance to loving yourself. That's just like
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah.
And I was telling my clients, like, I remember earlier this year, I stood in front of the mirror. I kind of have this, like, I have this boundary with myself, which is like, no matter how you feel, I will not name call myself when I look in the mirror. If I have a bad body image day, I will not ever talk myself down, because I wouldn't do that to anybody. That would be considered bullying, right? So I had this like download when I was standing in front of the mirror, which is, Allah says we created man in perfect form. And I'm like, Allah's literally saying you are perfect.
Yeah.
You're Allah's creation.
Yeah.
Obviously, you are perfect, and so
Yeah.
is everybody. That's what self-love is. It's not
Mhm.
I'm better than everybody. It's like she is so beautiful and so am I. And
Yeah.
that's the best. That's how it's also described in Islam. It's not like looking down on anybody, and it's not looking down on yourself either to not be arrogant. So interesting, like how these spiritual concepts like merge and go together.
Yeah.
That being said, I remember I asked you this before, and I like the way that you explained it. So people ask a lot about the concept, about istikhara prayer and how that's linked to manifestation, because istikhara, according to a lot of people and how we learned it from scholars in Islam, is that istikhara is about asking Allah for guidance on whether or not this thing is good for you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So when it comes to istikhara, the thought that people have is you have to have a dream, or you have to have like a response, or it's like a magical technique wherein something has to happen and all of that. But actually, if you see, and even if you read the translation of the dua itself, it is actually just a dua, right? To help you align with what is the best thing for you, right? It's just framed, and it has been written, and because the dua has been sent by Allah itself, it's so powerful that your path gets aligned, and your heart starts speaking to you more clearly through your intuition, through your inner feeling. So it's not about I heard someone say, you're supposed to see the color green more in your dream, and you have to see this, and I'm like, that is so, I don't know, I might be dragged for this, but that sounds like shirk, right? Seeing the color green in your dream, seeing this in your dream, and seeing, like, if that's meant to happen for you and that gives you a positive intuition in your body, then that might be the answer. But you don't have to see a dream. It's about making a dua for it, right? And then your path naturally will be led to that. I like to think of it like there are two of these timelines that you're wanting istikhara for. And then the moment you make that dua, it's like that transition of timeline overlaps. Right? So that is how it becomes like a path or a vehicle for you to hop from this timeline to this timeline. So this will start feeling more natural to you. Right?
Yeah.
Another thing which you were saying about like that you are already a perfection, right? Because people also come from this place of like, we are meant to suffer in this world, we are tested, this life is a test, you shouldn't have desires, you shouldn't get involved in this worldly life and all of that. That is all such loser talk, to be honest with you, right? That's usually people who did not have the courage to do anything in their life. The moment you are born, like how Allah says you're perfect, you're born with a purpose, right? You're born with a purpose in this world and a purpose in the hereafter as well. Your purpose in this world will be very obvious to you when you look at how, like, the tests that you're getting and the skills that you're naturally born with. You can't tell me that every person you meet has certain gifts and certain abilities that are unique to them. Why do you think Allah gave that to them? If women were not meant to explore and become talented, become educated, become skilled, why would they be born with these skills and abilities and all of these things.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Like, because you failed to have the courage to follow your unique path and follow your purpose, you're now like, oh my god, you have to not be. Of course, I see the point where it's like you should not get so invested that you lose track of your real goal and the real desire, or the main thing that you're born for, that is to please Allah, to live a more purposeful life, to do good in this world, to do all these things. Living a purposeful life is you using whatever you can to get get closer to Allah and to spread goodness in this world. You could do that as a doctor, as a teacher, as an architect, as all of these different things, right? As a coach, as a consultant, as a business growth expert. So it's about what your intentions are in doing those things.
Yeah. And just like circling back to istikhara, like I had something like just click now. Well, two things. The first thing, I noticed that sometimes when you make istikhara, it feels like a no. And sometimes the no is like no at the moment, and you can get it later. I've had experiences like that where it felt like a no, and then it worked out eventually.
Right now, yeah.
Which is interesting. So it has to, I believe like they talk about this in the manifestation world in the sense of like divine timing, like the right timing. And in the assumption world, they talk about it as like the right timing is like when you're aligned and when you can be the person who can hold this desire when they receive it. So that is one thing that I definitely saw in my journey. And then the other thing, it's obviously like guidance towards also what you want when you make istikhara. But also I've noticed that usually when people make that prayer, they're already coming from a place of like, I'm not sure this is the thing that I want. I'm not sure this is for me. It's like they're already saying no, and they want that to be confirmed to them. Subconsciously. And most people don't want to admit that. Most people don't want to admit that, oh, I know that this is not the thing for me anymore. I don't want it anymore. And I see this a lot where it's almost like people don't want to take full responsibility.
Yeah, it said that, right? So if you do an istikhara, you get a clear answer, and then you go against it, you have consequences of that. It's like how you have a very strong intuitive pull, and then you go against your natural instincts and step into the lion's cage. You can't blame for the lion that's attacked you. It's the same thing. As I said, it like I'm telling you, right? The more you get educated, the more you explore and become very consciously aware, all of these questions, these doubts are coming from a very fearful, very ignorant people's mind. And as I said, like the reality that I'm living in, I don't deal with them.
Yeah.
I don't feel I'd like I was talking to my best friend the other day, and I said now it might sound so mean, but I don't feel bad for them now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was like afraid before of like posting about manifestation in my reels where my face is showing because of my headscarf. And then one day I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. And ever since doing that, I've not had that kind of comment before. Like a comment about like you're doing shirk and it's haram and your hijab and all of that. And I like also like what you talked about, which is like this concept of like letting go. Because you know, Islam even means surrender. Like our faith is all about surrendering to God, but not giving up. Because I feel like this is where people are like, oh, it means I have to just like give up and pretend I don't want it anymore, or it's just not meant for me. No offense, all excuses just because you don't want to deal with the pain, you don't want to deal with the fear, because you don't want to take responsibility of your journey. And it's like, yeah, we're also told like our only attachment should be to Allah, because what tends to happen, like I notice also our religion doesn't emphasize, like you don't see a whole surah in the Quran about specific people or business growth, because we don't give that much value to circumstances. It's more so like we give value to our connection to God, and then everything else falls into place. And you know, you make the exact prayer that you want along with like you know your part on a day-to-day basis if there's you know something that you can do in the moment. And this concept of like letting go is more so about like letting go of like needing it so much that you're not okay without it. And for some reason a lot of people in the Muslim community are in such a victim space that they cannot like see their life without it, especially in relationships.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so triggering when they hear the concept of letting go, or they immediately jump to letting go because you're so afraid of like, opening your heart fully and getting hurt.
Yeah. And I feel like we have we have been in touch for almost a year, on and off we have been working, and so many things that we discuss were around surrendering it and letting it be easy, letting Allah open ways for you, right? Like even the whole concept of my brand, even the CDs that I'm doing on my podcast, it is about that. It's about surrendering into your natural state of being, which is receiving, right? That natural state of letting go and surrendering. Because once you set that intention, once you make that dua, then you have to stop messing with the middle. You have to stop obsessing over it and being worried about it, whether the dua will get accepted or not, whether you will have success in your business or not. There is so much fear that is corrupting that process. Essentially, you know, like how miraculously Allah works. You have seen that all your life. Every dua, every intention, every good, even if you didn't verbalize the dua, Allah knows the deepest things that are going on in your heart, and He has made that happen. He's opened paths for you, right? Like how can you then be like, I'm fearful about this, right?
Yeah.
The ultimate thing of what we're doing, how we're doing, stems from the foundations of Islam, right? Of course, I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be. There are so many things that I don't do as a Muslim that I should be doing, but I'm on my own journey as well, right? And like asking Allah for guidance, asking Allah for help. Like, as I said, the more it lands here, the more the practical applications of it gets better. The more acts will get better, but it has to like actually seep into your heart, right? I know so many people on the surface level, they are like 100%, right? You just look at them and be like, oh my God, this person is a perfect Muslim. But when you sit down to talk with them, you'll realize the amount of things. I don't want to say everyone, I don't want to generalize. There are some very good Muslims through and through as well. But that whole thing, like we just talk to them for some time and you realize, oh my God, this is not the picture, right? This is not the image that I had of this person. Like your heart needs to be pure, your intentions need to be pure. I also know so many people with such superiority complex around Islam, which is like, oh my God, we are such pious Muslims and only we are right, everybody else is wrong. And there's this extreme superiority complex around it, that their heart is never pure. Like every decision is made from the point of like trying to convince everybody that they are the superior ones.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like almost like they have monopoly over Islam. Like you're not allowed to have it.
Yeah. That is arrogance. It's like, it's okay to think like, obviously if you follow something, then you believe that's the right thing. That's the way of life. But it's like when it gets to a space of like arrogance, I'm like, I'm better than this person and that person, and this person follows this religion, and this person doesn't follow. And it's just so interesting to me that there's these like judgments. Yeah, it's as you said, like nobody's actually like the perfect Muslim,
No.
and I don't think we were even brought on this planet to be perfect. I think also part of this is like learning how to keep coming back to Allah, how to because istighfar and come back to Allah.
Yeah.
Going back and forth with the translation, so my mind is wobbling. Like Arabic and English.
No,
So,
I love how beautifully you're describing it.
thank you. Yeah, so it's so interesting to me because like I've seen this level of perfectionism as well in manifestation. Like, have I affirmed enough? Have I been in alignment enough? Have I done this and that enough? Oh my God, yesterday I affirmed 100 times. Today I've only affirmed 3 times. It's like nobody's keeping score.
Yeah. That's what I really feel. uh, I think one of the most deepest things, oh my God, I'm gonna cry. I just cried like right before we were about to hop on because I was just reflecting on something and like I had tears in my eyes. And that's what I feel like. I know so many apparently perfect people with such closed hearts, right? I think one of the most important foundations of our religion is the purity of your heart, purity of your intentions, like how you think for others, how you feel for others, and how much empathy are you practicing, right? And like now, these days, like my heart is so open, open for love, open for forgiveness, open for understanding and looking at things from other people's perspective and all of that. And this is exactly why, like, when people talk about, rising above worldly needs and all of these things, you truly get to that when you actually let go of your nafs and the needs of this nafs and this constant, this ego self that we are feeding all the time. And this work, this I wouldn't call it manifestation work because, as I said, manifestation has all of these connotations to it. But I would definitely call it this inner journey, right? That we have embarked on. It has literally opened my heart and made me a better person, a better mother, a better daughter in so many different ways, right? Like if I wouldn't have this, I don't think so I would be a good mother, which is like the most painful thing for me. I'm so emotional about this because I feel everything that I'm doing now is my dua being manifested because I cried, I begged to Allah for ways to improve myself. And that answer was in some of the manifestation techniques and how I got to this point, right? So, as I said, you can use anything on this planet for good or for bad. So, if you're using these universal laws and all of these things with the bad intentions, with not having a strong foundation, then you will use it against yourself. But if you're using like a technique to improve yourself, to strengthen yourself, like visualizing your duas, like actively living as if Allah has accepted it, having that complete surrender and faith in Allah. All of these can be used for you to improve your life, for you, not only in the worldly sense, but in the sense of you becoming a better wife, a better daughter. Isn't that what the essence of our religion is?
Yeah, it's such a beautiful journey because I've also noticed like the more you do the inner work, you work on your triggers, the less you lash out on people, the less you take it out on somebody, the less you project your own
And your
trauma.
triggers.
Yeah, and it's all interesting whether you do therapy, whether it's inner child healing, shadow work, whatever it is, that the point of it is that it does purify the heart and it does align you with that state and it does align you with these because as they say that there are two common states, right?
Yeah.
Love or fear, and then everything underneath those two umbrellas.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm so
the
grateful
more
for
you,
this
yeah, the more you clear that up, the more you're in that loving space. And it's when you were just talking about you can use anything for good or bad. I just remembered like I was scripting before about the best version of me as a Muslim because that made me get clear on it. It's not just like, oh, you pray five times a day. To me, it's also like, oh, when I'm about to pray, I'm actually so excited. When I'm about to pray, I'm like getting ready, like I'm about to meet Allah. And literally, I found myself sometimes like I'm like spraying my perfume at home just before I pray, you know? I'm like, okay, let me add just some moisturizer and let me go pray, you know, because like it's like I'm going to meet Allah. And that does change the relationship with prayer and also learning about meditation, which is like just connecting and being deep within. And Prophet ﷺ used to also meditate in Jabal Hira. It kind of like helped me when I'm praying to keep myself focused by almost like when I'm reciting, I'm listening to the words that I'm saying, that I'm uttering, like the meaning, the
being
essence.
present.
And that's what helps me come back and be present with it because neurodivergent here, mine goes back and forth. My mind is always like, blah, 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 blah. So it's in these moments, it's like 5 meditative sessions each day. How beautiful is that? And it's just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
oh my God, so beautiful. I love how you told me about that. And that's exactly why I feel um, people who want to find faults, like they will find faults, even in the way you pray, even in the way you are reciting something. Of course, like the Jweed and everything, I understand. But if people want to find faults, I know people who sit in masjid only with the intention of correcting others, not for connecting with Allah. I
Oh
swear.
yeah. Oh
I know
yeah.
people who go to like dars, then they go to these Islamic gatherings just so they can criticize all the girls, younger girls, lecture them about this and that, just so that they can have their moment of superiority,
Yeah.
right? So this is again, as I said, like this whole conversation is not for people who are in that state, but this is for people who are confused about these things and they want to try out these things, and carrying some guilt around these things more than anything. They're carrying some sort of doubt around these things. So I'm like, I'm not holding a gun to you. You don't have to do this work. You can go continuing back to hustle. No one invited you to this party. If you want to come, you can come. You can have fun with us. You can do all of these things. No one's holding a gun to your head.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want to do. Tomorrow, you can go get your, go become a nurse, go become a doctor, do whatever you want to do. No one is asking you or convincing you to try out these things. As I said, go make a solid foundation for yourself and explore these things for yourself. Oh my God, we
Exactly.
spoke so much.
Oh my God. Yeah, I definitely I
So
also
fun.
wanted to say, what did I want to say? We're exploring these things. Because I also remember telling clients like when they're complaining about manifesting love or an SP, I'm like, nobody's making you manifest this person. You're choosing it.
Yeah.
Why bring fear and tension and pain all the time? You either do the work or don't at all.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds harsh, but it's like I think it's more painful to be back and forth than
Mm.
to stay solid despite the circumstances and continue to build faith from there. And obviously,
Mm.
that feels like the most difficult part of the work, but
Yeah.
that's also the best case scenario. That is the most difficult part of the work.
Yeah.
You have to build.
Exactly. I feel like the moment we start treating everybody else like they're grown ass people, life would be so simple. Like I'm telling you, this year, one thing that like I have been so successful in being able to do is embracing my shadows. And the moment I feel like it's given me this, I don't want to call it power, but I will say that I'm not I'm not too bothered by not wanting to offend people or being careful with what I'm saying. Like half the time people are in their victimhood. Like you can see through, because I, for the longest time in my life, I was in that victimhood. I recognize that pattern in others. Like, and then
Oh
this is
yeah,
not me coming from a judgmental place, but it's me coming from a place of like, you have to at some point stop being a victim.
yeah,
You have to. There's no other way for you to go around in life.
yeah,
At some point, you have to accept that. As I said, like, just because I was in that victimhood for such a long time, I have the compassion and empathy for people, but I also can see that shadow aspect that's so like, no matter what, I have to affirm this victimhood, right? I don't have patience for people now. Like I don't have patience for people who have done a lot of this self-awareness. They know this and they're still choosing to manipulate their environment using that as a crutch. My problem is with them. You know the solution. My problem is not with people who are unaware, people who haven't been found this work. My problem is with people who know the solution, but they enjoy complaining. They enjoy crying about the same situation.
oh yeah, yeah. I
Right?
totally get it.
I have zero patience for them.
Me too. I'm known part of like my branding is tough love because I'm like, okay, I have compassion, I have understanding, I'll support
Yeah.
you, I'll create a safe space for you, but I'll also call you out when you're feeding into BS and continuing to do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And especially people who are manifesting love and or a specific person, it's so interesting because they go through the most healing because now they have to work through jealousy. Now they have to work through the self-comparison,
Yeah, you have to see
self-love,
through it. Oh my God. Yeah.
all of that. And it's like, imagine if everyone in the world did that work.
Yeah.
Bullying wouldn't exist. abusive behavior,
insecurities, jealousies, black
controlling,
magic, hasad. you
gaslighting.
will
Yeah.
you will stop doing all of these things, all these toxic things. Even the people who are very toxic will not see it work, because all of the people who they were abusing will be self-aware. They can see the pattern, they can see the love bombing, they can see the gaslighting, and they can stop it. So that narcissistic person or the toxic person in your life will have no ammunition. Because you're like bulletproof, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you do this work, like my favorite thing here is that now that I know my clients did this work, they're gonna teach it to their kids. They're gonna apply it to the future
I
generation.
know.
Like, look at how beautiful that is. Imagine if like two people who get together come from a healthy place. They
Yep.
truly love each other. They've wanted each other for a long time. Now they get to create a beautiful family that doesn't create like tons of childhood trauma for the children. Like it's
I
a new
know.
wave of
I love this
generation.
work. I love the fact that we found this work. Like sometimes I'm like, I could have been an accountant. I could have been a scientist. I could have been someone who types emails all day. But the fact that, I've been chosen for this work and I've been given this, like, I sometimes feel like someone has opened my mind and put the information there. Like, how beautiful is that? Like, I cry just expressing this. Like,
Oh,
I'm so happy that we get to do this work. Like, as I said, the work itself is so rewarding,
yeah,
so rewarding, that the monetary part is just a secondary thing, right? This is not to say money is not important.
it is.
Money is important, it enhances our life experience, but that's a conversation for another day. I have to go, and this was so fun. We should do this more, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. Thank you so much for this.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll put this up on my YouTube channel as
Sure.
well. It was so fruitful and so
Yeah,
beneficial, inshallah.
thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'm thanking you. This was a beautiful conversation.
It was, honestly.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Okay, let me stop recording. Stop.